This is the Škoda Slavia, and when it's launched, it will replace the Škoda Rapid in Škoda's India's lineup. Now, this is based on the new A0 MQB iron platform, which means it will be more expensive than the Rapid when it's launched. Now, we're going to split this video into two parts. We'll first tell you about the Slavia on its own, and then, because it's based on the same platform as the Kushaq, we'll tell you how the Slavia compares with the Kushaq and maybe tell you which is the better buy, as in when it's launched and for whom. So let's start with the Slavia first. Now, the Slavia will go up against the likes of the Honda City and the Hyundai Verna, two very strong brand names in the sedan class. Now, the sedan itself, the class itself, hasn't been doing well, but Škoda's still decided to come in, and they say it's got some really strong USPs which will help it. Design being one, which you of course can't see now under this bright camouflage, but when it comes out, it will be like a mini Octavia, only maybe prettier. But that's one thing that'll be a really strong selling point for the Slavia when it comes out. The other bits, of course, will be the smart, clever features, because it's a Škoda, and because it's a Škoda, there'll be some driving dynamics. And then when you look at the car, it's also actually quite long and wide. So Škoda is betting big on the Slavia. They feel that they can revive this sedan segment with this. But I think it'll be a more it'll be a steep task for the car, because you've got really two strong brand names in the class, City and Verna, and of course the sedan class isn't doing well.
Now, before we tell you how the Slavia feels on the road, we thought we'll quickly compare the other two sedan competitors with the car. So now in the sedan class, the Slavia is closer to the Verna than the City. Both the Slavia and the Verna come with 1-litre turbocharged petrol engines, while the City gets a 1.5-litre naturally aspirated petrol. Also, the City's engine is a 4-cylinder, while the other two are 3-cylinder engines. Both the Verna and the Slavia come with a dual-clutch automatic, while the City gets a CVT. And in terms of outright power, well, the Slavia trails both the City and the Verna, though not by much. However, it does deliver better torque figures compared to the other two sedans. Dimension-wise, the Slavia is the widest, and it sits on the longest wheelbase among the three sedans here, and that should, in theory, give it an advantage in terms of interior space. In terms of length and height, however, the City still leads the way, though not by much.
Now, we drove this prototype. Now, this is a prototype, so of course there'll be some things that will be revised, made better in the production car, but we'll still tell you how it felt like when we drove it. We drove it for quite a bit, and we drove all the versions that were available or that will come on sale. Versions, by versions I mean the engine and gearbox combinations. Now, it has two engines, and with each engine you will get two gearbox options. So you have the 1-litre TSI turbocharged direct injection petrol engine made in India, and that is mated to a 6-speed manual and a 6-speed automatic torque converter. Both these gearboxes are also made in India. Then you've got the 1.5 TSI with active cylinder deactivation, so it's 150 horsepower. When you need the power, it runs as a 2-cylinder when you don't need it, so it's efficient as well. And that can be had, or when the Slavia is launched, you'll be able to buy that with a 6-speed manual and a 7-speed DSG. The 1.5, the 7-speed DSG and the manual that it comes with are all imported, so that's why the pricing for that particular version will be higher. Now, we drove all versions, and we'll start with the 1-litre manual, which we feel is a nice combo. That will be your entry-level car. The engine itself is a little gruffy when you rev it. It has a very sharp throttle response, so when you start rolling, it feels peppy. It doesn't feel like it's it's a 1-litre engine, so it won't pull. The car looks big. It's not exactly very light, but you don't feel that. The 1-litre engine pulls really well, good throttle response. The gear shifts, again, short throw, precise, a little bit notchy, but it's not a lot of hard work. Clutch is light. Steering response, I think, is really good on this car. It's not feelsome, it's not brimming with feel, but it's linear, it's light, just what it needs to be. It's predictable, and you never feel that it's artificial or something that you won't enjoy. So I think in terms of steering, in terms of engine, they have it right. The ride and handling, It is a sedan now. It sits closer to the ground on this platform, and we drove it on the express, we drove it on some B roads. The ride overall is plush. There is some amount of busyness to the rear, which Skoda engineers tell us that they will rework it, and when the production car comes it would be better. But overall I think it will prove to be a comfortable car. It will also be a nice handling car. We've seen that to an extent with the Kushaq on the same platform, and this should in turn be better in that sense. Then you've got the 6-speed automatic. We drove that too. That's great for people who are going to be driving in the city, on the highways. We're not really looking for a very involving drive, because the manual just makes more sense there. But the automatic, it's seamless, it works well, and it should be reasonably efficient too when it comes out. Then of course we've got the 1.5, 150 horsepower. It's a smoother engine than the 1 litre. It's a nicer sounding engine than the 1 litre. It pulls well all across the rev range with the manual. The gear shifts are, the shift is still shorter throw than the 1 litre, so it's a very involving setup. The driving position is really nice, so it makes for a very good driving car. Clutch is light again. Now with the DSG, of course, that is again for people who want something sportier, but they want that relaxed nature when they're commuting in the city. And the DSG 1.5 will be the most expensive option when it comes out. In terms of ride and handling for the 1.5, very similar to the 1 litre, and like we said, you will see some improvements in the 1 litre. We should see those improvements here. Now we're not allowed to tell you about the interiors of the car, but overall on the outside it has good road presence, it has the length, it has the wheelbase, it has the width, and if we are to believe what Skoda said, it should be a pretty looking car. Now it's time to compare it and tell you how it does with the Kushaq, because the Kushaq and the Slavia are based on the same platform. Everything on the two cars is essentially the same in terms of engineering, in terms of the processes used, in terms of the materials used. Of course, the top hat is different. Now, the thing with the Kushaq is that even though it sits on a pretty long wheelbase, it's not a very long car. So when you place it in the real world against its competition, it looks slightly like a class below. That's not the case with the Slavia. It is long, it's longer than the first generation Octavia, and compared to the city is slightly longer, but it's very close. So in terms of dimensions, in terms of road presence, there's absolutely no issue here. So if you're looking for something that has a road presence, I would say the Slavia makes more sense than the Kushaq. Now when it comes to driving dynamics, this is a sedan, Kushaq is slightly higher, so you can feel the difference. While the Kushaq is still a great handling SUV, this would be better. Now in terms of features, the Kushaq and the Slavia would be very close because they will sit parallel in the segment. I mean, if you want an SUV, you buy the Kushaq. If you want the sedan, you buy the Slavia. So that's where they want to be. But of course, the Slavia will get a digital cockpit from the get-go. So that's that's how the Kushaq and the Slavia will be. And now just to wrap it up, Slavia should be unveiled in November, like we have reported on the website, and eventually when it's launched, it should ideally undercut the Kushaq. It should also undercut the Honda City if Skoda is serious about selling decent numbers. I'm not really saying big numbers, but let's say 1,500 or maybe close to 2,000 a month. They really need to undercut the City to begin with, to get people all warmed up, because sedan as a class isn't really growing. City is a very strong brand name, we've talked about that. So that'll happen. It'll come with 2 engine options. Every engine will get 2 gearbox options, and when it comes, it should make for a nice involving car to drive. And I think Skoda believes that the Slavia can bring the love and passion and interest back into the sedan space. Well, depending on the pricing and how it looks once this camouflage comes out, maybe it will, but for that we'll just have to wait till it's officially unveiled. Thank you for watching.